welcome to episode 5 of the Red Mountain Express. As usual, I'm Blake Westbrook. Along with me today, and always, is Matthew Joyner. Mr. Joyner, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. What about you?
I'm doing good. Did you have fun this weekend? Do anything fun?
It's kind of a lazy weekend. I took Friday off and just kind of took a day for myself. I know you're not much of a video gamer. For anybody out there that is, I played some of the Destiny 2 beta. I did a little bit of housework and yard work, and I don't know. That's about it. Me and my wife did a few things yesterday and had some friends this morning for a few minutes, but that's kind of it. What about you?
Did you know, first before I get, did you go get tacos?
Yeah, so I did go to Tacos and Tequila in the Preserve.
And did you break the law according to the law 2 weeks ago? If
the law that I think you're referring to from 2 weeks ago was still in place, then yes, I broke the law in a major way.
And what did you do?
Well, I had a pitcher of margaritas.
How are you not in jail right now?
Well, no cops showed up. No, the ABC board didn't kick in the door. The bottom of the pitcher didn't seem that much stronger to me. It wasn't much of a scientific test, but I tried it out. I didn't get...
You should have finished with the pitcher and go, let's get another one so we can test it out properly.
Yeah, I'll try that next time.
Well, good. Well, listen, I did some yard work as well. My backyard looked like a jungle. So finally got that under control.
Well, it's like the first weekend in 3 months where it hasn't rained.
I actually had finally a dry yard to actually do it. And it took me a couple passes just to fix my backyard. But luckily it's done, and it's better. My wife is happier now that we can actually let our dogs go in the backyard without the fear of a tiger jumping out of the jungle to get them.
Well, don't worry. The rain's coming back this week. I'm sure the grass will grow just as fast.
Perfect. Because I need to wait another 3 weeks before I can mow my yard again.
Yeah. Hey, it saves on fuel costs.
Yeah. I did get to go for the first time and eat at the Pizzitz. It wasn't the first time I've been there. Me and you went there a few weeks ago and interviewed Randall Woodfin, but we didn't eat anything or didn't drink anything. But I had the pleasure of going there. I had the Waffle Works, and they have this Conecuh sausage dog on a stick that's covered in a waffle with waffle fries, and it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it.
That sounds really good. I was there last week as well. I ate lunch there and ate at the Standard for National Hot Dog Day. Had a hot dog from the Standard. It was very good. But more than the food, I just enjoy that location. That's a really cool spot just to sit and enjoy your lunch break. Yeah.
And then there's this other place that has ice cream, like at the entrance, and I forgot what it's called. It might be a Mexican ice cream place. So I got some chocolate ice cream on a waffle cone. So
nice.
I stuck with the waffle the whole way. We got a great show for everybody today. Later on, we're going to be going to the top of Red Mountain and speaking to the folks over at the Vulcan. It was a good interview. I enjoyed it very, very much so. But first, let's talk about a few things going on in our area. Matthew, you had a story that you had sent to me about the Huntsville's, what's it?
So there was an article from the Biz Journals. Ty West wrote it, and it was Huntsville headline should raise eyebrows in Birmingham. This article came out, I want to say Monday. I think that's right. Ty West basically was talking about the new funding for the Von Braun Center, getting $42 million from funding for expansion there. And then goes into a few other headlines. Mid-City Huntsville among the nation's largest CRE projects. Proposed downtown Huntsville master plan features dramatic changes. Bezos Blue Origin to build rocket engines near ULA plant in Alabama. He talks about how Huntsville seems to be going through growth, and Birmingham should, be scared. Should raise their eyebrows. Should be worried.
I'll say one thing. No one's going to want to build rocket engines in Birmingham. They're going to do that in Huntsville because NASA's there. So, It's hard to say. That's like someone saying that, Alabama doesn't have a great vet school. Well, of course we don't have a great vet school. We don't have one. Or Auburn having a great law school. They don't have a law school. You can't compare the two.
Well, yeah, and reading the article, I don't know. I haven't read a lot of Ty West work, but this particular article seem to focus too much on the fear or the competition that Birmingham should have in relation to Huntsville, when I don't really think that should exist. Alabama as a whole state needs a lot. Well, there's a lot of things that we need to improve on and work on. We're at the bottom of so many lists. I think that we need to spend time trying to really improve ourselves as a state before we worry about our cities competing with each other. If Huntsville's doing better, that's better for the state as a whole. If Birmingham starts doing better in a certain area, Huntsville shouldn't look at us and be worried about our progress. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years down the road, but that's not something that should be happening right now, in my opinion.
Well, I think it's important that you look at other cities and see what's working for them and say, hey, Huntsville's doing this. It's something we should look at. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do, when you start comparing, Huntsville's growth compared to Birmingham, I mean, there's so many factors that go along with Huntsville's growth compared to Birmingham.
And he even says at one point, a quote from his article says, "For too long, we've waited idly by and watched our competing metros around the region, from Nashville and Memphis to Louisville and Charlotte, upgrade their arenas and reap the rewards." And so he kind of goes into the arena thing, I guess, in relation to the Von Braun Center. But why are we comparing our metros or our success versus Nashville and Memphis or Louisville and Charlotte? In my head right now, those places are on a different level than we are. Not to say we can't get there. We shouldn't be aiming for that. But why are we comparing our growth to theirs, or worrying about their growth?
Well, that kind of brings us to our next topic that me and you had a little discussion off the air. We decided to save it for on the air. Is part of the BJCC's upgrades they're going to do. One of the things that's part of that upgrade is a dome, or not a dome, a field, or an open-air football stadium. And I know that me and you have a little disagreement about that. I am more in favor of a closed arena or a closed stadium, and you are more in favor of a field.
Yeah, of a more traditional open air. Yeah. So the BJCC master plan is on their website. I believe this was released originally back in August of last year.
Yeah, that's right.
Basically, they're talking about having an open-air stadium north of the Uptown District, so probably a little bit further north than where Topgolf is going to be, or maybe in that same area, with 55,000 seats and expansion area available for temporary seating. That's part of the plan. Yeah, I'm a fan of the open-air seating. I think it makes sense for us. I think it's cheaper. I think it's less maintenance. I don't think we need a stadium that seats 75,000 people. And with UAB coming back, their football program coming back, it's time to do something. Let's get rid of Legion Field. It's 90 years old. The girls, she needs to be put up to pasture. Like it's time.
I agree with you on Legion Field. I think Legion Field needs to be closed or at least made into a park. It's not in great shape. And I think that shows with the attendance of the games there. I do know that the Birmingham Bowl has seen really good attendance in the past, but I think we do need another venue of some type. Now, I don't know if I'm really in favor of an open-air stadium. I mean, if they build one, I'm all for it. Right. I think it's great. But
so what's your argument for a closed stadium?
Because I think you can do more with a closed stadium. I think with an open-air stadium, you can have, outdoor activities. But I mean, with a closed-air stadium, you can do so many more things that you're not going to be bothered by the weather or by any other outside factors, the heat. And I just think you can do more with a closed-air stadium.
And I think that's a fair point. You're right.
But there is cost involved, and I understand that, and I know with working on a budget, you got to do what you have to work with what you have.
Well, and especially considering what we have right now, we've got the BJCC right there, which is, I don't love it for concerts, but a lot of people do. But it's a great enclosed space, seats a lot of people. I think if we're going to build a stadium for our football program or for other sports in the area, it needs to be an open-air stadium because it's cheaper. And I think people enjoy it more than a dome stadium. And I think, looking at land cost and maintenance cost, I think an open-air stadium makes more sense.
What's the seating on the stadium right now?
The proposed
is it 55?
The proposed is 45,000 fixed, expandable to 55,000. And I think that's a lot of seats. I don't think a UAB football game at this moment in time is going to fill every one of those seats every game. I think if we have a 75,000 seat arena, that's a lot of empty seats.
I mean, I think 75 is big, and I will cede that to you. I would think that if you did something like a 60,000 dome stadium that you could have a football game in, you could have something like a kickoff classic the way Atlanta does, where you could bring in two teams from outside the state of Alabama to kind of showcase the city of Birmingham. I think that's what we want to do. I don't think you can do that with a 45,000 seat stadium. I don't think you could bring in an NC State or a Louisville to come into a stadium that's going to be a lot smaller than the stadiums that they're in, and showcase the city of Birmingham the way it's meant to be.
Okay.
But having said that, I do like the fact that we want to make additions and improvements to the BJCC to help us compete with other metro areas.
All right, so I get what you're saying. It would be nice to have a stadium big enough for a bowl game or some kind of special event. But what do you do with the stadium the rest of the year? Those other 364 days of the year. What do you do with the stadium then, where it sits empty for so long? I don't think
the Georgia Dome sat empty for 365 days a year.
That's a little bit different. The Georgia Dome is pulling more games in than the Birmingham field would at BJCC, I believe.
But there's more than just football that goes on. It's convention space. They do conventions there. They do.
Do we need two convention spaces? We've got the BJCC.
It's a fair point. I just think we're selling ourselves short with a open air stadium. I'm not against it. If they built it, I'd be all happy about it.
If we could build
I just think
that
that something better could work.
If we could build it and we could fill 65,000 seats for football games or soccer games or conventions or concerts in a domed stadium, fine, let's do it. Let's put the money down. Let's do it. What I don't want to see happen, though, is us build a stadium that seats 65,000 people, a dome stadium that we spend the extra money on for the dome feature, and see it sit empty because people are choosing to use the BJCC arena and not the football arena, not the stadium. I don't want to see that money wasted and have people say "told you so" or see it fall into disrepair like Legion Field has over so many years.
And like I said, I'm not against the open air stadium, and I would like it if we have something like that to use it to attract something like an MLS team, because those stadiums are usually smaller than football stadiums. Actually, I don't think there's one that's bigger than an NFL stadium. I like that feature of it, but I think you need to have something anchor it, and I think UAB's football team could anchor it. But I would like to see what they're going to bring in attendance-wise over the next couple of years.
Right. Which I think at this point, to go off that, if you're listening to this and you're one of those people last year, 2 years ago that got really angry about UAB football disappearing, go to the games this season. The season's going to start back up here really soon. Buy the tickets, go to the games. That's the only way we're going to keep a football team going in Birmingham.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Well... And also, we want to hear from you on this. Please let us know what you think. Do you think a dome would be better for the Birmingham area, or do you think an open-air 45,000-seat stadium would work for the BJCC? Let us know. We'll read your comments on the air. Let's take a little break. Let's hear from our friends over at Beach and Woodworks, and we'll be back from atop Red Mountain at Vulcan Park and Museum to talk to them about the wonderful things they got going on at the Vulcan. Beach and Woodworks is a locally owned and operated wood shop in Birmingham, Alabama, specializing in custom furniture and small home goods. Chris and Kanan Beecham create a wide variety of unique pieces of all sizes, ranging from cutting boards to farmhouse tables. Using wood sourced from Alabama sawmills, Beach and Woodworks creates affordable quality pieces that will be a one-of-a-kind fixture for your home. So support your local woodworker and visit redmountainexpress.com/woodworks or check them out on their Facebook and Instagram accounts. Beach and Woodworks, turning your house into a home. And welcome back to the Red Mountain Express. We're coming to you from atop Red Mountain right now in the shadow of the Vulcan. And that's because our guest is Morgan Black. She is the Director of Public Relations and Marketing for the Vulcan Park and Museum. And we're glad that she is with us here today. Morgan, thanks for being here.
Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate this.
Start by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came to become marketing and the Public Relations Director for Vulcan Park and Museum.
So you want the long story or the short story? No, I'm just kidding. So I'm originally from Montgomery, like we discussed. Went to the University of Alabama and was always very familiar with Birmingham. Grew up, driving up the road to come up here. And I got into marketing and communications for the Montgomery Convention and Visitor Bureau, where I worked for 6 years. And then for 2 years in an educational environment. I did PR and marketing for a private school, and then met our CEO here at Vulcan Park and Museum, and was offered the job opportunity in 2014. Started January of 2015. Been here ever since, and I just love Birmingham. It was always kind of my ideal city to be in and to work in and to live in. So that's really kind of how I got here.
I want to ask you this. Did you have any preconceived notions of Birmingham before you moved here? Like me, who was from Montgomery, that went to the University of Alabama as well. I came to Birmingham to go through it to get to Tuscaloosa, and so I really didn't spend much time here. Didn't I really have a particularly good opinion until I moved here?
I really didn't have any bad preconceived notions. All the ones I had were good because I have family here, and always knew about, when we were coming up from Montgomery, we went up for shopping and for good restaurants at the time and that I was growing up. And so I've always considered it a great place to be. But I've since heard that not all people felt that way about it, but now the times have turned, and Birmingham is such a booming city, and I'm so glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, probably safe to say that most Birmingham residents have seen Vulcan from one vantage point or another, but they may not really know much about the statue or the park. Can you tell our listeners a bit about the history of the statue as well as the park and the museum?
Sure, absolutely. So Vulcan was created and conceived in 1903 when Birmingham leaders at the time said we need an entry into the St. Louis World's Fair 1904 to represent not only our city but our state. And the only gentleman that was up to the task in creating this entry into the World's Fair was an immigrant sculptor named Giuseppe Moretti, and he is from Italy. And he said, I'll do this. I've got this, probably in his grand Italian accent. But he not only did he come up with the idea of creating Vulcan, but he raised the money, which is around $15,000 at the time to create.
That was a lot of money back then, too.
Exactly. He raised the money. He sketched and designed Vulcan. He built the structure in a cathedral in New Jersey because there was nowhere big enough in Alabama to build the structure. Then the 21 pieces were shipped to Alabama to be cast with iron, then again shipped via train up to St. Louis, all in a matter of about 8 to 9 months. Vulcan was a little late getting to the World's Fair, but he was eventually there for about a year, and he won all of the awards for mines and metallurgy and all of the categories that he represented. But when the World's Fair was over, there were a couple of cities that were interested in purchasing Vulcan. And do you guys know
I'm
which
guess
ones?
Pittsburgh was one of them, right?
That's a good guess, and a lot of people usually guess that. Any guesses?
I've got nothing.
So one was St. Louis. They
sense.
wanted him to serve as the gateway to the West. And if you think about that, they might not have built the arch. The second was San Francisco. And if you are familiar with history, there was an earthquake about that time frame, and Vulcan very well could have ended up in San Francisco Bay.
Yeah.
So our education director likes to say it's almost like that toy in the back of your closet where one brother, it goes missing and the other brother finds it, but then that first brother is like, no, that's mine. Birmingham said, no, we're keeping it because they saw value in it. So they brought him back to Birmingham, and with nowhere to take him, he sat on the side of the train tracks for a while, and then they eventually put him up at the Alabama State Fairgrounds. Mm-hmm. And then by mid to late 1930s, he was transported here to Red Mountain, where he's been ever since.
Wow.
And so, Vulcan's gone through a lot of stages in history. In 1930s, he was put here on Red Mountain by the Kiwanis Club of Birmingham, which is important. We'll talk about that later. But come the mid-1940s, I believe it was 1946, if my memory serves correctly, another civic club, the Birmingham JCs, wanted to create a traffic awareness campaign. And this is the beginning of the familiar torch that everyone remembers because it was around for so long. But the torch that was put in his hand to bring awareness to traffic on Highway 31, because it was one of the most dangerous highways in Alabama at the time. So it was the torch lit red when there was a traffic fatality, and then the torch lit green when all was clear. Well, that torch stayed in his hand for about 50 years. It did not come down until Vulcan came down in 1999. Mm-hmm. So that's what people remember. It did not go back up with the restoration because it's not historically accurate. Vulcan was created with the spear in his hand, and so therefore during the renovation to receive some funding and to receive historical accuracy and recognition for the historic preservation, the National Historic Preservation. He had to be replaced with a torch in his hand. So that's kind of how we are here today.
Yeah.
I remember, and I think we talked about this off air, that in fourth grade, that's what we learned about the Vulcan, not being from Birmingham. It's just like, oh, he's a statue,
Right.
and he had a
You
torch
look for
in his
that
hand.
color
Exactly, and
in
that's
his hand.
what we mostly learned about.
And I will mention, it is an iconic figure, and that's what people remember. So we do have the actual torch that was in his hand in our museum. So it only stays green, though.
Yeah.
Well, in the 1990s, you talk about it came down off the mountain. During the 90s, the Vulcan was in disrepair. I think at one point they had a study that said it was in peril of collapsing. Is that right? And then it was removed from the mountain in 1999. Now, at that point, people could have said, you know what, the Vulcan has outlasted its time here on the mountain. Let's take it down. Let's put it into a museum. So my question is, one, was there any of that sentiment in Birmingham when that happened? And two, if not, why is Vulcan so important to the city of Birmingham? In your opinion, why do you think it's so important that we have this large cast iron statue looking over the city?
Right. So you're absolutely correct. Come 1999, the statue was in such disrepair, and we go into a lot of this detail in our museum. It was in such disrepair that engineers and city leaders closed the park immediately one day because his arm was hanging on by literally one bolt.
Wow.
And I know. I mean, if you think of a 56 foot, 50-ton statue up on a hill, and there could have been visitors like there are today, I mean, what a catastrophe that could have been.
Yeah.
But people that rallied around this statue, I guess at the time, because of the memories and what he meant to Birmingham then, and what he could mean to our future. And that's so important because of the way that people rallied around Vulcan and the park and what it meant to Birmingham then has made it what it is now. Vulcan is not only a symbol of our past, but a symbol of our future, figuratively and symbolically. We like to think of Vulcan as forging the future of Birmingham. You look up to Vulcan, not only is he figuratively hammering out his spear that he has looking forward, but we like to position him as a symbol for Birmingham residents and the community to look forward to a better Birmingham.
Okay. And so speaking of the future of Birmingham and the future of Vulcan, I know in 2016, the Kiwanis Club of Birmingham announced a $4 million project called the Kiwanis Centennial Park. That's correct?
Yes.
Can you give us information about that and other improvements that may be currently underway or are planned for the future?
Sure, absolutely. And improvements here in the park started a little before the Kiwanis Club announced their great announcement. We've just expanded our gift shop here at the museum. That opened in August of 2016. It's triple the size, and so people can come here and get Alabama-made goods, Vulcan memorabilia, and much more items that you could have gotten here before. But shortly thereafter, Kiwanis Club did make their announcement about the nearly $5 million renovation that they are bestowing to our organization and our facility. We're looking out on it now, and they're making tremendous headway in the renovation of the north side of Vulcan Park. Now, there used to be a stairwell that led into the park from the north side, but at some point in time, it just disintegrated and went away, and there's not been an access point from the north side, which we're really excited about, that people will be able to access our park from the north and the south sides. So that's happening. A complete re-landscape of this north side will take place. That's kind of what we're looking at right now, the foundation of it. And they're also in partnership with the Freshwater Land Trust are going to be extending Vulcan Trail. It'll be a total of 2 miles instead of 1. I believe the extension point is all the way until to Green Springs Avenue.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then the final leg, or the third piece of this grand project, is installing an LED light show on the base of Vulcan's pedestal. So we're thrilled about the opportunity that may bring us here. People will be Vulcan will be even more visible than he is now.
What is the timeline on that? When is all this going to be finished? And it's already started, right? I mean,
yeah, it's already started. The groundbreaking was on May 19th, and we've been told that they estimate it to be finished in December of this year.
Oh, wow.
So we'll probably have some kind of grand opening in January, just to put it safely.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I know we're pretty pleased.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned before we started recording, I've been in Birmingham or around Birmingham for most of my life. And so I've been to Vulcan several times, have a lot of memories about Vulcan. One of my best memories was I actually proposed to my wife up on top of the statue.
That's neat. That's so neat.
As somebody that's worked here for a while, you know a lot about Vulcan. You've been here, to see people come in and out. Do you have any good Vulcan memories or stories that you like to tell, or?
Being from Montgomery, I'm kind of like you, and just kind of being like, let's look out for Vulcan as we're driving through. But
Right.
we have some really great staff here that have been around a lot longer than myself here in Birmingham. But I think one of our visitor services representatives, she loves Vulcan so much and has so many pictures of her, even as a child here, even in the 1940s and 50s.
Yeah.
It's just so neat. And I love seeing couples come up and get engaged. And I love seeing students come and take their prom photos. It just makes for memories.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what we want. We want Birmingham residents and visitors to make memories here, and to always remember what they did at Vulcan Park and Museum, or just to make a memory in their life that they can share with their children, like others have shared with us.
Sure.
So I know there's a huge statue here, and there's a museum that's really nice. We kind of took a little small tour before we started the podcast, but what other services are available to the public at the park and museum that people may not be aware of?
Right. Thank you so much for bringing that up. So you did mention we have a fabulous museum here, and it really is one of the most comprehensive history museums in Birmingham. So we have wonderful, wonderful museums here, but none as comprehensive of Birmingham history as here at Vulcan Park and Museum. So that is a tremendous asset that you can find here. And admission is not expensive at all. It's only $6 for adults and $4 for children. And that's for the museum and to go up Vulcan's tower. We also have a rotating gallery room for exhibits that rotate every 10 to 12 months. And currently, you guys might find this interesting, we have an exhibit called Southern Thunder, the Legacy of Alabama Auto Racing. And
wow.
The purpose of this gallery and the exhibits that we place in there are to tell the history of Birmingham, which feeds into our mission here at Vulcan Park and Museum to not only to preserve and promote Vulcan, but to tell the history and allow people to go explore that history. So that's really why we do these exhibits. And so the exhibit now, Southern Thunder, it focuses on the Alabama gang and how racing really kind of became big here in the Birmingham region, and then how safety and engineering innovations paved the way for bigger things nationally and regionally. It's really a neat exhibit. So we've got that. We've got the rotating gallery room, and then we do smaller events that go along with the exhibit content. But we have our annual event that we do every year starting in February. We have a really fun event called I Do With a View, where we do 30-minute wedding packages. For those that are looking for a hassle-free, inexpensive way to get married, but something a little more than the courthouse,
Right.
They come here. We have tents. We have all kinds of great sponsors that provide flowers and food and champagne and cakes, and you get married on the overlook at Vulcan Park and Museum, and you're in and out and done, and you can invite guests. So we do that on Valentine's Day. That's in February. And then we have an event, And while I'm talking about these events, it really all goes back to our mission of telling the history of Birmingham and our region, and then allowing people to go explore that history. So we do our spring walking tour series where we go out and explore different neighborhoods of Birmingham. That's every spring. And then we do an event, is a new event that we just started this past spring, in partnership with the new 5 Points Alliance, which is the neighborhood that we sit in. The Taste of 5 Points. 2017 is the 130th anniversary of the neighborhood, so we partnered with them this year to put on the event, and it was such a huge success. We're going to do it every year from now on, where we had food vendors and merchants and retailers up here at the park all in one place. Every year, every first Sunday in June, we do Vulcan's birthday bash. This year, he turned 113 years old. So that's a really fun, big family-friendly event. We have about 1,500 people that are up at the park. We have clowns and face painting and the drum circle and bounce houses, and anything that you can imagine would be fun for children and young families, and for really any of Birmingham to come enjoy. We have free ice cream. And the mayor comes and sings happy birthday to Vulcan, so that's a fun time. We produce Thunder on the Mountain every year here at Vulcan Park and Museum. It's not open to the public per se because we shoot the fireworks from our parking lot. But if you guys have watched it, anywhere you can see Vulcan, you can see the fireworks, and then you can tune into WBRC and watch them live on television. We also do a fall concert series called Vulcan Aftertunes. This year it's all set in October 1st, 15th, and 29th, and we're announcing the lineup next week, so that'll be really fun to listen out to. And then another big event that we do in the fall is the Vulcan's Community Awards, which nominations are open right now until July 31st. That's really a region-wide event. We want people from the 7-county region to nominate folks that are changing our community for the better. We have 5 categories, including Lifetime Achievement, Newcomer, Servant Leader, Game Changer, and Hero. And so folks can nominate those who are doing things within those categories, and they can be considered to be recipients of the Vulcan's Community Awards. This year is the 4th year that we're putting this event on, and it's been such a huge success and well received by the community. Yeah. So those are some of the things on top of what we do here, including educational programming, field trips, and then like you mentioned and you've been to before, private events, weddings. We have weddings all the time here. So really a lot going on here at Vulcan Park and Museum.
Yeah. So with everything going on at the park, I mean, it sounds like y'all are extremely busy. Is there ever a need for volunteers or public support at the park? And if there is, how can people get involved?
Absolutely. We have a great volunteer program and a wonderful staff member that manages that program. Volunteer opportunities can be found at visitvulcan.com, as well as donation and support opportunities at visitvulcan.com.
Well, thank you for being with us here today. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
We think that the Vulcan is something that Birmingham, it's a treasure of Birmingham, and I think it's something that a lot of folks see all the time but don't really know much about, and that's kind of what we're here to do.
And it's only to get better.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to do it for us for this edition of the Red Mountain Express. Again, I'd like to thank our guest, Morgan Black of Vulcan Park and Museum, for taking time to talk with us. Please remember to subscribe to us on iTunes, YouTube, or our favorite podcast app. And take a minute, if you're on iTunes, to rate and review us on the iTunes page. Next week, we'll have Hunter Williams on our show. Hunter is a candidate for the Birmingham City Council, District 2. He's going to share his ideas for the city of Birmingham. For Matthew Joyner, I am Blake Westbrook. This has been the Red Mountain Express, and we'll see you next week.